We are currently standing literally in the middle of one of the world's greatest, and most complete Atari 2600 game collections. And there are just a few collectors out there, one of them being Rick Weiss, who's one of the founders of Portland Retro Gaming Expo, who have just devoted themselves to hunting down every single one of those games at great cost and personal expense. The rarest game, it's right over there, it's called Air Raid. It's by a company called Menavision. There are, I believe, 3 known copies of that box. It is a 5-figure game, price-wise.
I am an avid player, gamer, modder, so this is kind of my realm.
What attracts me so much to retro gaming is it's half nostalgia.
Yeah, the nostalgia of it all growing up, playing like Ninja Turtles, and then you play it again like, oh, wow, I remember that day.
This is like a lot of us. This is what we grew up with.
I grew up with these games. I was a Nintendo kid.
I kind of like everything classic, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
There's more retro games than there are current ones, and we can, just by virtue of the way time works, only play the best stuff if we want to.
On the other hand, I mean, these games are great. Like, some of the best designed retro games absolutely still hold up to the games of today.
I think it brings a lot of authenticity back to Portland and back to gaming itself.
Games are different back then to where they didn't have the technology, so they had to use different tricks to make a game entertaining.
Before budgets exploded to be $50 trillion and 1,000 people per games, there was more of a space in the middle or big budget games to take risks.
I kind of get a kick out of making something that's 40 years old work like it's new.
So for me as a developer, it's about turning the abstract idea of making something that people would enjoy into the reality of people are enjoying it right in front of me, and then telling me so, and then I feel good about myself.
A lot of kids that I see running around right now, I think it's kind of cool that they're getting to experience, I guess, old school gaming.
Well, I'm actually here helping with the World Tetris Tournament, and so if you can, check that out.
How good are you at Tetris?
At Tetris, I am very bad at Tetris.
A lot of kids here don't get that whole social interaction with people of common interest, so I think that's a pretty ideal thing to come into.
And I think it really goes to show you that these games, even if they were created in the 1980s or 1990s, they're not obsolete. They're still a lot of fun, and they can even be better than today's games.
I just love that it's a great place that a bunch of fans of the same thing can come together and play games of the past, relive old memories, and create new ones.
First game system would have been a Magnavox Odyssey, released in 1972, if I remember correctly.
My first gaming memory is my dad, who was an engineer, basically bootlegging Atari 2600 games, like copying them to put them onto EPROMs, onto rewritable chips.
Atari 2600?
Commodore 64.
My very first console was actually an NES.
The NES, or as I called it, the regular NES.
Yeah, Nintendo NES was my first one. I played with my my dad.
The NES. Definitely the NES.
It was definitely the NES. My brother had one, and we just had it in the house, and I would watch him play until I was able to play myself.
First console I owned was a PlayStation 1.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Probably the Game Boy Color, actually. I think that was my first one.
I always say that my favorite game of all time is Elite Beat Agents for the Nintendo DS.
My favorite game of all time is Silent Hill 2.
Oh, that's really hard.
The Mega Man series. Just love them just because of the history of it for me.
Chrono Trigger.
If I said World of Warcraft, would you be mad?
Super Mario Brothers. I am a huge Nintendo fan. I will always be proud of it.
My favorite are the racing games, the ones with the wheels, Crazy Taxi.
Metal Storm.
My mom was a Nintendo girl. I'm a Nintendo boy.
Okay, it's probably Legends of Zelda, either Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask.
Yeah, Legend of Zelda is probably our mutual favorite, but I really like Assassin's Creed.
And I will say Deus Ex.
Favorite game of all time is Mario 2.
Probably Okami for the Wii or PlayStation 2.
Not Zelda?
No.